Welcome to Ladies Kicking Ass, a podcast for bold entrepreneurial women who are seeking community and authentic connections. My name is Tanya Wilson. I'm a wife, mama, entrepreneur, and growth coach who is crazy passionate about supporting you, babe. Yep, the ambitious woman who is ready to call her own shots and create a life and business that she truly adores. The best part about this podcast is our conversations are real, raw, and unfiltered. We chat about it all. Our wins, losses, business, family, friendships, and how to get the hell out of our own way and believe in ourselves and our big ideas. I'm your new hype girl, and I can't wait to see what you create when you start believing that you can be who and whatever you want. So come on, let's get inspired and learn something new today. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. So my guest today, one word I would use to describe her is firecracker, because her energy, she's like this little ball of energy and she's the cutest lady. Just her energy is so contagious and she has so much passion for what she's doing. It's completely undeniable. And I know you can see that on her face right now. So Ina Coveney is a business coach and she's my guest today. And she specializes in monetizing tiny audiences, which I know so many of my audience may be like, well, I only have like so many Instagram followers, or I only have this. So like, do I really have to post that much? Well, what should I do? How can I show up? They're expecting that you have to have 1 million followers before anything can happen for you. But I really want to talk to you about like engaged communities and how you can leverage that. Super awesome because she has a podcast called The Global Phenomenon that just surpassed 200 episodes. That's a big feat in itself. So congratulations on that. You have to check that out. The podcast is featuring top online coaches and kind of how they got out of their own way and they started doing things and kind of some of their formulas and success stories. So we can always learn from those stories. I think it's so incredible. She's a hardworking wife and mama, and she immerses herself in new stuff all the time. We were just talking before recording. I'm looking forward to learning some of her time management skills, because I think it's incredible how you do that with the little ones too. So, welcome to the Ladies Kicking Ass podcast.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Tanya. I've been looking forward to this so much. It's an honor to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so thankful to have you. I met Ina at the Community Builders Mastermind, which everyone is going to be like, what the hell is this? Because that's all I've interviewed everybody from there, it seems like. But there's so many good stories and so many cool relationships that came from just being in that room for 4 days with a whole bunch of what were strangers when we walked in. And when you left, it makes me emotional because you left like just 4 days later with like cheerleaders that like a whole nother like cheering section. It wasn't like that for you too. Like,
yeah,
you feel like you almost need to show up differently now because you've got all these people that are watching you.
I was actually really blown away by our host, Lindsay Schwartz in the Community Builders Mastermind, because it really is her zone of genius, creating that community. Like I walked away knowing that what we experienced was not an accident, that it wasn't just like, oh, it would have happened anyway, no matter what, because you had a bunch of kick-ass women in the same room. That doesn't happen by accident. No. Everything that we went through was specifically designed for us to build that kind of strong bond and community. So I actually walked away with mind blown in so many more ways than one. And yeah, having that accountability, now you're a part of this cohort of people who are doing amazing things. Like you're not going to be the one to be dragging your feet, right? So it really helps you elevate in so many ways. I was blown away after that. And are you going in August to the Powerhouse Women event?
Oh, yes.
All right. I'm going to be there too. I sent a message to all of my besties. I'm like, let's make this a party of all of us getting together. And some of them are coming. It's going to be a ball. I can't wait.
Oh, so fun. I've been promoting it too on my social stuff. And I've had several ladies from my community reach out and say, do you know her? Like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, you just buy the ticket. Just buy the ticket.
Go.
I will pick you up You could stay with me, just buy
Right.
it.
Get a roommate. I got myself a roommate. Like first thing we got out of the mastermind, I'm like, hey, roommate, let's go. Let's do this. We have a room. It's all set. Let's do it.
Yes. Yep. I'm so excited. I just can't wait to see everybody's faces again. It will be so much fun.
Ah, it's gonna be so cool.
So fun. So let's talk about your podcast, The Global Phenomenon. Tell us all about this podcast, why you do it, who it serves, what's your audience, and what's the passion behind it?
So the global phenomenon actually speaks to the online coaching world. And it actually came from one of my conversations with one of my mentors. I already had started my business. I was already coaching. I was in business coaching. And I had a podcast already called Trailblazing Out of Corporate Life, which is still out there. And it was just me teaching wisdom about starting your businesses and getting out of corporate and joining the ranks of coaches and all that. And I was about to reach 100 episodes on that podcast. And I was having a conversation with one of my mentors, and she's like, what do you really want? Because I was telling her that I was not feeling aligned anymore, and there was something off. It's just something didn't feel right. And she told me, what do you want? Like, just tell me what you want. And I told her, I want to be the next global phenomenon. Like, I want this to be like a movement. I want this to be huge. And she's like, oh my God, yes. And like that was like the spark that blew up. I wrote down global phenomenon and I posted and I put it on my wall, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I thought, okay, if I am really doing this, and I need to stop talking to people who are just starting side hustles, people who want grocery money, right? I want to talk to people who really want to go the distance, who want to have such a big vision for their life that nobody else in their life understands that vision, and they couldn't, like they're not there yet, but we are. So how do I get to talk to them? Then I need to rebrand myself. I need to change everything. So I dropped everything. I had my offer, which was a program that helped me get to the first 6 figures in my business, and I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. Podcast, got to 100 episodes on the podcast. We are ditching the podcast. We're starting brand new with the global phenomenon mentality. Okay. Like, no more talking to people who want grocery money. This is really the big leagues. So I thought, well, what better way to do this than to interview people who are already global phenomenon? So it kind of became a two-way definition, right? The global phenomenon is the coaching industry that allows us to charge as much as we want for our expertise and really have really big dreams. And also you get to become a global phenomenon when you end up having the big audiences and things just start really moving much bigger than you ever imagined. So I'm like, I want to talk to people who are there and see what they say about when they started. Like, what was the real story? And my podcast kicked off with like the biggest coach in podcasting and in the business, which is John Lee Dumas. He was episode 1. He is the host of the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast. He was episode 1 of the podcast. I'm like, okay, great way to kick it off. Then we continued on with the first plus size supermodel in the world, Emmy, who became a life coach. She was episode 3. Then episode 5 was Pat Flynn, who's like the godfather of podcasting, right? So, and then I just kept going with that. I'm like, if I'm getting such big guests, even before the podcast kicks off, like, what else can I do? And I ended up interviewing Laura Belgray. We just released our episode with Sean Cannell from Think Media. Our next interview episode is going to be Lindsay Schwartz, who is the host of the Powerhouse Women. And the next interview is going to be Brock Johnson, who's one of the biggest names right now of Instagram. So, and I like to just surprise my guests. So you're going to hear questions that nobody else is asking them. What was your childhood like? What was your relationship with your parents like? Right? What were the things that really inspired you? Why are you doing what you're doing? And how did you get there? And what is your advice for people who are just starting based on all the years of experience that you have? So that's kind of like where it is and where it's going. We just released season 4. We're making some changes. We started a brand new Facebook community for the podcast listeners and more opportunities for online coaches to show their expertise. Because we all join these Facebook groups where you're not allowed to self-promote, or you're not allowed to really talk to anybody unless everything is everything is moderated by the host, right? And I'm like, you know what? I want this to be a community for coaches by online coaches. So I created that group, and that's what that's probably what, when you ask me at the end, what is it that I have big going on? It's like, this is it. It's growing this community of online coaches to help each other out. So that's kind of where that whole thing came from.
Oh my gosh. I was scrolling through your podcast episodes. There is so, like, if you want to learn about online coaching and that's something that you're interested in, holy hell, this is like a masterclass of how did you do it? What are you doing? What was the pain points? Where are you at? Like, there's 200 episodes of people sharing their secrets. Like, people sell these courses and you can get this information from a podcast. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Big time.
I think that's been one of my pain points, is like, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And I get stuck in like this, which way should I go? Which way should I go? Really listening to that advice from people that you're interviewing can spark that. Yes. Like, when it's the right thing for you to be doing, like, I truly feel like that's a emotional, call that a spiritual universe, whatever thing. But when it gets you the chills, when you hear it, you're like,
yeah,
I must do this. So thank you for being such a library for people that want to do this.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm going to confess, I'm going to give you a confession right now. I am not the kind of person that normally listens to podcasts where there are interview guests. I'm usually the kind of person who listens to podcasts where I connect with the host and I want to hear more about their experiences. So I kind of decided to take a two-prong approach. You're going to hear, that's why I said that, you know, in the interview episodes 1, 3, and 5, because episodes 2, 4, 6, like there's the odd episodes and the even episodes. Every other episode is actually me teaching you, like, okay, this is what we talked about with this guest. This is what I think you should be doing right now. And I kind of bring it down to earth, because you were asking me, okay, who is the audience for this podcast? Is really people who are getting started in their online coaching journey. Maybe they're in the first couple of years. They're still trying to figure out how to get clients. So hearing the stories of how people got started gives you the inspiration, but now we need the strategy. So that's what you're going to find in the odd episodes, is me telling you, okay, listen, you just heard Sean Cannell tell you this. This is how you're going to apply it to your life. So that's why I love it that you say, yeah, you can actually get a whole ton of, like, an entire class on how to get started in your business in those 200 episodes. So I wanted to make sure to mention that you can get a little bit of the best of both worlds, the teaching and also the interviews.
What a genius idea, because then so many of us hear these stories from people, or we read a book, and like, I'm reading what is it called? The Greatness Mindset, Lewis Howes' new book.
Yeah.
And he like talked about like the step-by-step of like kind of how he got started in personal development. And it's very encouraging, but then you're like, it's still kind of high level overview, because he's talking about years ago of starting this. So someone that's brand new, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, so that's a great idea, but now, like, how did you go about talking to people to get restaurant space? And then who did you talk to? Like, the tangible things that you teach in those the even episodes of things is fire. What a great way to do that.
I definitely invite everybody to go and check it out, because I think it's amazing. And it's not obvious most of the time, right? I can hear somebody here talking about their story, and I'm still not sure what am I supposed to be doing. That's why, when in your intro, your fabulous intro, thank you so much. You were saying that I always talk about monetizing small audiences, because that's where we all start. Right. And that's where I suggest that everybody begin, is by monetizing the audience that you already have, not by trying to get the large audiences. So I don't know if this is like really good segue, like for that topic, if you wanted to go there.
Huge. Absolutely. I would love to go there, because so many people in this Instagram social world, they think I have to have 1 million followers, or I got to have a K after my number in order for me to make any money off of them. Right. And truly, if you have an engaged community of 10, you could be doing some really awesome things. So talk to us about what it is that you teach, and maybe give us a couple of tips on how to really leverage that tiny audience that you're just nurturing and building.
Yeah, I think the first thing is for for me to kind of set up a context here, because I think that we would all love to have 100,000 followers tomorrow. I think like we all want this. I want this. I only have 2,000 followers on Instagram and I managed to make over 6 figures last year, right? Like, so it's possible to make money, but look, we all want the big audience, right? So
Sure.
I want to make sure, because sometimes I go on podcasts and people ask me, I hear that you're trying to keep your audience intentionally small. Why do you do that? I'm like, am I? Like, no, wait a minute.
No.
No. I like, please give me 10,000 followers yesterday. That's great. Here's the problem. Everybody out there is talking about growing your audience. Every single person. Why? Because it's a really sexy topic, right?
Yeah.
That when we get online, what are we looking for? The big numbers. I want the big audiences because the logic dictates that if I have a large audience, then it's going to be easier for me to sell my programs and I'm going to be making more money. Here's the problem with that logic. It's not always that case, because most people, they think the audience has to come first. Like you just said, I need to have 10,000 followers in order to make any money. Therefore, I need to focus on audience growth. So what happens? If that person is actually successful, which is not even guaranteed, right? If that person is actually successful at growing their audience, then what are you going to do with that big audience once you have it? Did they start following you because they needed you, because they needed your offers? Sometimes that's just not the case. I was just browsing TikTok, and at first I thought it was a joke and then realized that it wasn't. One guy that I follow, he's an amazing French instructor. And if you follow him on TikTok, he has over 300,000 followers. If you follow him on TikTok, you fall in love with him, right? The way that he's trying to teach you, like, this is how you say that French word, like that accent, that charisma that this guy has, like he's magnetic. Okay. So I was browsing TikTok and I saw that he was doing like a kind of a long form TikTok video. And he's talking about how he's completely burnt out, how he is not really making the money that he thought he would be making on TikTok. And at first I thought it was a joke because he's so charismatic and so funny that I thought this was like the setup to a punchline. I'm like, what is he going to say that's going to turn it around and it's going to teach me some French with it? Like, I stayed for the entertainment of it. And no, he was serious. He's just talking like this. So like, I've tried to monetize this account. It's not happening. I've had lives where I come and teach you more French. Sometimes people don't even show up. I cannot continue serving this audience at 16 hours a day without making any money off of it. So you know what, guys? I'm going to do a lot less of this because I need to go and make a living, right? So what happened there? Actually, hold on, my phone is ringing and I forgot to turn it off. If we can edit this part out, I just don't want that sound while we're talking. So hold on.
You're fine.
Hi, Greg. I really can't talk. Please talk to Dad, okay? That's my son. Okay. Sounds
I get
off.
it. I have kids home today too.
Sounds off. And my husband is across the way, so he can definitely go and reach him. Okay, starting with. So what happened in that case, right? What happened was he managed to grow an audience. He learned how to get the attention of people. But because he didn't start out thinking, how am I going to monetize this audience? He didn't start out thinking, what is it that this audience actually needs from me? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's not that hard to grow an audience if you're not really thinking about business. Because if you have a topic that is entertaining, that it is captivating the attention of people, a lot of people are growing audiences that way. One person came to me, she had like over 50,000 followers on TikTok. And I looked at her content and it was basically just her sharing her stories to the camera. She had become her audience on TikTok's best friend, right? And then she comes to me and she's like, so how do I monetize this? I'm like, well, this is something you should have asked yourself on day one, because now we don't know who these 50,000 people are and we don't know what they need from you. And we don't know if they need your offer. We don't know if you can sell it to them. And if you think that growing the audience is what's going to make you be able to sell something, it's actually the other way around. You need to be able to sell something to an audience and then grow an audience, grow a legion of that kind of people. But because that's not where you started, right? Now you have 50,000 people that you assume I should be able to sell them something. Well, can you? Who are they? Why are they following? Why are they here? And that's a problem that, as you can see, our French friend on TikTok is experiencing, our 50,000 follower friend on TikTok is experiencing, is that if you put the cart before the horse, you're going to find yourself in a predicament. It's like, I thought that growing the audience was it. And it's not.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is that, listen, I'm not telling you to have a business with a small audience forever. I would love to have 100,000 followers. I really hope that I make it there at some point in my life. But my business needs to keep running. I need to be able to sell my packages. I need to have a viable business that has nothing to do with going viral. I need more control over my revenue here. So I can't rely on just randomly growing an audience and then hoping that they will buy something. But you know what you do have control over is checking out who those 800 followers that are paying attention to you are. What is it that they need? Why are they following? Why do they keep coming back? Are they engaging with your account? If they don't, start engaging with theirs and see what happens. See if a connection can start forming, and then figure out what is it that these people need so that I can start offering it to them and start testing. Because just because I put out an offer that I think people need doesn't mean that they actually need it, and doesn't mean that it's actually going to work. I need to be talking to people. So this is where more personal engagement comes in. This is where it becomes really helpful to know the people and then be able to offer them something that they actually need. So you can start experimenting with the offer, with the price. And once you have that sweet spot, that you know what your message is and what message is going to attract people, then you can start selling them something. And as the audience grows, that will inevitably mean that you will make more money as the audience grows, because now you know who you are attracting. So I wanted to kind of like paint that context, because it's such a blanket goal to say that I want to grow my audience, but it actually matters who you have in there.
Wow. That's like light bulb moment for a lot of people, because everybody seems to talk about, especially with all the ads that you see online, it's like, grow the audience, grow the audience, grow the audience. So everybody thinks that. What an interesting perspective on that. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense.
The question is, do you want more followers, or do you want to grow your business? And sometimes it is like that
to you. Yeah,
exactly.
I think sometimes the ego stroke of having a whole bunch of followers, to some people, and that's fine if that's your jam, is more important to them than saying, I have really 500,000 people that want my product. Maybe 500,000 people that don't want anything that you're selling. And then what's the point of that audience other than the ego stroke? So good to think about that.
And the problem is that most people are not really that self-aware, right? Most people are not consciously making the decision that I prefer to have more followers versus making more money. Yeah, they're not thinking that way. They automatically think more audience means more money. I'm telling you right now that you can break that myth right now. That is only true if you know how to monetize the audience that you already have and how to attract the people that are going to buy from you. That's the only way that more numbers will actually mean more revenue. So you really got to do A before you get to B.
That's excellent information. Take that to heart. Watch what Ina does in her Instagram. And we're going to segue into a little something here. Her Instagram is absolutely incredible. It's beautiful, first of all, and it's such pretty colors and it's so fun, just like her. You've really embraced yourself in that. So kudos to you on that, because sometimes you can get into that. I know I do. I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to post? You know, the content creation sometimes can be a thing. I love so much your little thoughts or questions that you pose or post on your Instagram. So I'd love to talk about a few of my favorites recently that you've posted, and they'll come into different kinds of conversations. So I think this is going to be fun.
Okay.
One of them that I picked out is I have invested tens of thousands of dollars to be part of coaching communities, but why and has it paid off? It's
Yeah,
a good
I
question
love
for
that
you.
one. I love that one. So here's what the genesis of that one was. Like I mentioned, I started a new Facebook group, right?
Mhm.
And inside that Facebook group, I'm allowing people like, hey, come and ask your questions. Come and like just basically treat this free group the way that you would treat a $5,000 mastermind group. And by the way, I am in like mastermind groups that I have paid thousands and thousands of dollars to be in. And what's funny about it is that you go to the communities and they're like silent. Like you're not like people are not even engaging with each other. They're not taking advantage of the platform. They're not. And I'm like, you know what? We really need a place where we can do this, where we can ask the questions and everything. So that post was supposed to be a little bit more thought provoking. It's like, hey, I've paid thousands of dollars to be in these mastermind communities. Is it worth it? Well, number one, you got to understand that when you pay to be in a room, you're not the only one who is paying at that level to be in that room, which means that the community, the people that you're joining that group with, were also at the level that you are. That's really what prizes and masterminds do, is they qualify the kind of people that are going to be in it, right?
Yeah.
So there's room for those masterminds in the world. Like I know that I will continue to invest at that level to put myself in rooms with people that are a higher caliber, right? So it's totally worth it to be a part of the community. But the only way that it pays off is in connections, is in actually making use of it, is in actually talking to other people and seeing, okay, how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we scratch each other's backs? And starting to share audiences with other people, right? So the whole purpose of that post was to say, listen, I'm going to tell you why investing in these things is worth it, but also I'm going to tell you that you can get this right now by joining my Facebook group, right? So come and join, and there's a whole group of online coaches. So that was kind of like, and you see, like it's a, it leads you into, hey, come and join the Facebook group. Like that's kind of like the purpose of it. But I wanted to make it in a really thought-provoking way, because I'm probably going to continue to invest just to be in those rooms with people. And has it paid off? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't because I invested at that level. So many things happened because I invested at that level. I am planning my very first in-person retreat because I invested back in 2019. Like you don't even know where your investments are going to take you, right? Like this connection that we have right now between you and me, Tanya, right now is a podcast episode. Then it's going to be partying in Arizona in August, right? But we don't know what's going to happen next year or the following year or the following year. So I also told the story that back in 2019, I went to a podcasting conference and I met this guy who was like, he and I are like we say in Spanish, like dirt and nail, right? Like we go together, like we just sparked a friendship. A year later or 2 years later, he introduced me to another podcaster. A year after that podcaster and I became friends and we started talking, and he sparked this idea of me having a retreat. And who knows what's going to happen after I host this retreat at the end of the year and what's going to come from that. So you never know where the ROI is coming from, but you know where it is in meeting people and in high engagement. Just dropping the mic. That's all you need to be worried about, is talking to more people and see how you can help each other out.
Yes. Oh, I love it. So good. So good. Okay. Next one. Just because they share about their life online doesn't mean you're entitled to know everything that's going on about their life. And just because you are online doesn't mean you have to share everything that's going on in your life either. I love this one because my 13-year-old daughter, Aisley, has her own sugar scrub business. And she has a great little following. She's got a website, a little Shopify site, and all the stuff. Like she's jumping on that bandwagon early.
Nice.
And one of the things that her business coach tells her is like, you got to get on. Your face is going to be your brand. Like you have to get on and talk. So all of these teens can relate to you. They can see you, and it's not just another product that they could buy at Target for half the price, right?
Right.
So, but one of her biggest fears with that is like, what if they judge me? What are they going to say? They're going to do, they're going to, because she thinks she has to put everything out there. I'm like, you
Yeah.
don't have to talk about personal stuff if you don't want to. Just talk about why you came up with the product and why you do the things. And I think so many people get paralyzed, like, I don't know what to post. Like, do I have to share my kids? Do I have to do this? Like, how are people going to relate to me if I don't lay it all out there? So tell us some strategy around that and what you mean by that.
That's a really big one, especially for moms sharing their kids. They're like, well, I don't want to share about my kids online, so I'm not going to share my personal life. And if people don't want to hear it, then I'm just not going to show up at all because I'm not sharing everything and I'm not being vulnerable. And I'm not, it just like snowballs from there. But before I go there, kudos to you for being an amazing mom and having kids who are entrepreneurial. Like it's not lost on me that it's your influence that is creating these amazing kids. So congratulations to you and to your daughter
Thank
for
you.
pulling through. Okay. But about this thing, this came up because somebody in the online world who is really big, she's got like hundreds of thousands of followers, she just let the cat out of the bag that she is pregnant. And so I went on TikTok and actually recorded an entire podcast episode about this, like telling people like, wait a minute, how come she didn't tell us that she was pregnant? Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it's none of our business, right?
Yep.
Like, so we all have this kind of sense of entitlement when we're following someone, right? Because it starts with us. Before we start talking about fears and like, oh, what are people going to think about me? Think about the way that you react to others first, right? Because that's how you think people are going to react to you. So if you look at somebody online and you find yourself judging them, if you find yourself looking at their stuff and being like, well, I can't believe that she did that, right? Or, oh my God, like, oh, get off your high horse. So you're pregnant. So who cares, right? Like, so if you start finding yourself judging others, it's completely natural that you would be fearful that others are going to judge you. It's just natural because we just have that mirror effect in the world, right? Whatever we put out there is whatever comes back. So if I'm about to start a business, if I'm the judgiest person on earth, right? And I revel in it because I love it because it's like my guilty pleasure is to judge everybody, is to judge all the desperate housewives on TV, right? And that's where I get my entertainment. And then it's going to be my turn to put myself out there. I'm going to panic before I even decide to do anything. I'm like, wait a minute, but I don't want people to talk about me like that. And I don't want people to. So I really think that this starts with us first, right?
Yep.
Is us starting to realize that there's going to be different kinds of people in the world, that we are not going to jive with everybody, that it's not up to us to judge what everybody else is doing. It's not up to us to have an opinion. We're not entitled to having things our way. If we look at a mom who's sharing their kids on social media all the time, who are we to say, well, she's doing that wrong, right? If we see a mom who decides to keep her kids completely hidden, who are we to say, well, she's doing that wrong? Where does she get off, right? So that's where we first need to start. First is acknowledging that there's going to be different kinds of people out there, that not everybody's going to be our cup of tea, and that it's okay for people to do things that were like, I probably wouldn't have done it that way, and move on, right? So once we start to heal that relationship that we have with our social media and with how we look at things, then we start to actually create a safer space for us to step into that arena, because now we're going to start to change that story. And we're going to start thinking, wait, if I'm giving people so much grace and I'm not giving them my opinions and I'm not entitled to all of this stuff, then people are going to react the same way towards me. Like, you start to change that story, regardless of what the actual truth is. Because the truth is that the internet is a cesspool of people. Like, that is just the truth, and we cannot escape it. That's just a fact. But I have been able to go online and create kind of my own world with my own rules around me, right? I say what is okay to say in my comments and what isn't. I train my audience on, hey, by the way, when you see this stuff, this is how I want you to think about it. and this is how I want you to react to it. So I am putting out there, these are the rules of engagement with my feed. And if you violate those rules, right, which I don't think that I look like a policeman either, right? I don't think that people look at my side and be like, hey, Ina is bullying me into believing things. It's more like infusing more love into my feed and hoping that people hang on to it. Well, no, more hoping that people grab onto that rather than judgment and hate. So if I do have the experience, which I mean, it's probably happened maybe like a couple of times. I don't think that is something that I deal with every day, like somebody trying to bully me and troll me online. I am very quick to just block them, to remove them as a follower. Like we have that control. We may not have that control in real life, right? To mute our family member who is always on our case, right? But we totally have that power online. So I can create my own very insular world online of this is the kind of people that I want there. So starting there, if I've decided I'm going to step out there into the world, you actually can choose how you're going to do it and how much you're going to share. And it's really not of anybody's business. And who cares if they really judge, because this is like your thing. It really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So for moms who don't want to show the faces of their kids, I'm not judging. And your audience, collect people who are not going to judge you either. Right? For your daughter, if she wants to put her business out there, her business coach is telling her, hey, people are going to relate to you if you show your face. I mean, that is just a fact. That is true. We don't relate to brands. We relate to people. I think that's really good advice for your daughter, but your daughter has to take it, do it in a way that is comfortable and safe for her to do, working with her own beliefs from the inside out, but also putting herself out there in a way that is going to be like, is going to stretch her. Right? That is going to stretch her and feel more and more comfortable every day with it. Knowing that people are going to judge her. Who is she afraid that is going to judge her? And make sure that the person is immediately blocked from day one. I did this. This is the last thing that I'll say, because I know I'm kind of belaboring this point, but this is one of the first things that I did when I started my business. I went on LinkedIn because I knew that I was going to be posting there. And I unconnected, or I disconnected from my former CEO, my former manager, my former CTO in my company where I was working before I quit. Because I'm like, it's not that they're going to judge me. I don't think they're going to be paying that much attention, but it makes me self-conscious to know that they might be looking. And you know what I don't want to do? Be self-conscious when I'm posting, because I'm speaking to a very particular audience and they're not a part of it. So I disconnected from them, and it gave me freedom to do whatever I wanted.
That's the best advice right there, because you do not have to keep those people available in that space. It's a beautiful thing, right? That control that you have with that. Like if you anywhere in your life, if you're playing small or feeling like you can't be yourself, you have to block, you have to mute, you have to get those people out, whether it's physically or over social media or the internet. So good, Ina, so good. Okay, one of the last ones here. Courage and confidence are byproducts of bold action, not the cause. What tips do you have for women to just get going?
Oh my God. So this is just a fact, but I don't think it really changes anybody's minds, because self-confidence is such a personal thing. So to kind of rephrase what you just said is, I really believe that you can't wait to be confident in order to take an action, right? And I've seen a lot of coaches try to do this. I've seen them go like, well, I'm just gonna like building myself up towards it. Or once I have a website, I'll feel more professional, and then I'll feel more comfortable putting myself out there. It's like, my friend, that website is not going to give you confidence. Like that's like that's just not where confidence comes from. You know where confidence comes from is from you doing something that was hard to do and realizing when you're on the other side that you did it and the world didn't end. Like, period. So for anybody who's listening to this right now, is like, yeah, Ina, but like starting my business seems so scary and it's such a big task that I can't just like go and do it. Start with something small. Like, what do you think is going to be the smallest action that you can take that is the biggest bang for your buck. For example, if you're afraid of showing up on video, maybe something that is really easy to do, because it really takes one click of a button, is to go live on your favorite platform. Go live on Facebook, go live on Instagram, go live on LinkedIn, and just go live and say, hi, I'm Ina Coveney. I'm a business coach. I specialize in monetizing tiny audiences, and I am open for business. And if you have any questions, put them down here. Let me tell you why I started this business. And just practice being there by yourself. If you do that live at like midnight or 11 o'clock at night, I promise you, you're not going to have a lot of viewers. Right. That's a great thing, especially if you're starting to practice. I would tell people to actually start a Facebook group and not invite anybody to it, and just start posting videos there. Just like start going live, explaining a few things, and then open it up to people to watch the replay if they want to, right? But having just doing it with no audience starts to make you a little bit braver. It's like, oh, that actually wasn't so bad. Let me do it again. This time I'll try to cut out all the right? And all the breaks and all the pauses and the awkwardness. Let me try. I think I can do better next time. You just get
you're like, what do I do
practice.
with my hands? I'm always like this.
Right.
You're like making people crazy.
I know. I use my hands like when I talk all the time, right?
You too.
But I used to practice this. I used to practice this all the time. And I got so used to just seeing myself talk that it really always felt like I was talking to myself. Like I'm just like in the mirror, just like pepping myself up, you know? And that's kind of how I see it. I'm always talking into stories on Instagram as if I'm talking to just a really good friend who actually wants to hear what I have to say. And that's a really cool trick of this too, is don't imagine people on the other side who don't care about what you're talking about. Imagine someone who actually wants to hear it and is hanging on to your every word, and it's going to be the best live you've ever done, and you're going to feel so satisfied because you feel like you got that immediate feedback. And I'm doing air quotes because it's like you're not getting feedback at all anyway, but like you're seeing yourself do this, and you start to pep yourself up. So think of something small that would be a big leap for you that you can just totally do in the next couple of days, right? Like spend a day psyching yourself and then do it, take the leap, and your confidence will start to build as you take action.
So good. So good. It's like the little tiniest things. Don't overcomplicate things. So many things we overcomplicate, and then we just like don't ever get started because we're too scared to do it, or we don't have all the steps written down yet. So start with something small before you're ready to do anything. It is beautiful. So I've kept you on here talking about a million different things here. You always seem to have something else going on. Ina does not hold still ever. She's always got something going on. That's why I mentioned time management skills at the beginning, because girl, I don't know how you do it, but it is so incredibly beautiful to watch you do what you do. And it's very inspiring to all of us that are trying to come up with things and market stuff, and how you just show up all the time. You're always showing up. You're in my inbox, I think, every day. And I love it. I love it. It's so inspiring. I'm like, gosh, look at this. Like, it's one more thing that I'm constantly like writing things down all the time. Like, oh, I saw, well, Ina did that. That's a good idea, but I could do this. And really watching and mirroring people that inspire you is a beautiful thing. And Ina is a beautiful person to watch if that's what you're wanting to do. So tell us what you have going on. What's coming up with you?
So right now it's all about growing this community of online coaches. Like I really want like everybody to realize, okay, listen, Ina, I don't have $5,000 to spend on a mastermind. I'm like, great. Join us inside the Global Phenomenon Facebook group, because we have an entire arsenal of online coaches in there. We actually have a brand new subscription program that does not break the bank. For a really small subscription, people can become experts inside the group and actually come and teach their master classes and get clients out of this community. And that's what I want to see. I want everybody in there to become a group expert and to come and teach to everybody, and everybody just work with each other, collaborate, collaborate with each other. Like, how amazing would that be? And it's a completely free Facebook group, right? Like, we can all get this there. So I would love for everybody to join it. If you allow me to give the link, it's at theglobalphenomenon.com/Facebook. Will take you straight in there. Just join. The email address to join the group is required. I'm going to say this out loud. It is required to give your email address because you are entering into a community, and we're going to be sending you more information so that you can make the most out of your time in there. So that's the latest thing that I have. It's all about growing this Facebook community right now. So thank you so much for letting me give it to everybody.
Oh, I love it. I will put that in the show notes too. So everybody will have just a direct link to be able to find you in there. Thank you so much for your time today. I adore you. It was just like, you're like one of those people that just cannot be missed in a room. And that is so inspiring, so inspiring.
The feeling, I just need to inject in here that the feeling is completely mutual. I am in awe of you. We got to spend 4 days together, pretty much sharing our life stories in there. And I am like, everybody needs to understand what a powerhouse you are. No pun intended, but like, it's just so true. So really, thank you so much for having me, for giving me the space. Everybody's so lucky to have you in their lives right now.
Thank you. That is so kind of you. So one of the last questions in closing that I ask all my guests, because I'm fascinated with how people relate to the phrase that happens to be the title of the podcast. So what I want to know from you is, what does the phrase "ladies kicking ass" mean to you?
Oh my God, doing whatever we want, whenever we want, without caring what anybody else thinks. Ladies tend to say sorry too much and ask for permission way too often. So when I think of it's just like kicking ass, it's like really embodying that version 2.0 of yourself, but doing that right now and just saying, who cares what anybody else thinks? I have a big vision. I'm going to do what I need to do right now. And I don't care. I'm just doing this for me, for my family. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, we need to stop asking for permission and saying sorry so damn much.
Yes. Oh, hallelujah, girl. Hallelujah. That is so good. So good. Thank you so much, Ina. I cannot wait to continue to support you and see where our relationship goes and how we can support each other in things. And to my audience at Ladies Kicking Ass, this is a powerhouse woman that you don't want to miss out on. So be sure to follow her on Instagram and take in everything that she has. Even if you're not an online coach, goodness gracious, you can learn so much from her podcast. So even if it's just the contagious, beautiful personality that she has, please follow this woman. So thank you, Ina.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank you for listening. Today's message was pure inspirational fire. I loved it so much. Hey, if you got a lot out of today's show and you think a friend of yours may love it too, please do me a quick favor. Screenshot the episode, post it, tag us at Ladies Kicking Ass, or share the link to the episode. I'm here to help and support as many badasses as possible, and your generosity in sharing the show to your audience means the world to me. Don't forget to hit subscribe to be notified of all newly released episodes, and leaving the show a 5-star review is the ultimate expression of love. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or Facebook and we can chat further. There's also a link to connect in the show notes. Thank you for being part of our tribe. Now go kick some ass.